Oh, hello, everyone. We are here today for a super special episode of the Cash Confident podcast because I have one of my dearest friends, Katie Joy Wells, is here. And if you haven't met her, she has a wonderful podcast called The Maximized Minimalist. We're going to talk about it, but I'm going to I'm just so excited. I'm going to spill the beans. She's got a new book coming out, and she's here today to help us really understand how decluttering is so much part of an abundance building practice
Yeah.
and all of the things. And decluttering is harder than it seems. And as a lady who's ruthlessly purged some shit, there's better ways to do it. There's better ways to do it. For 2 years, my kids were like, "Did you throw away my things?" And I was like, "I don't know, I probably did."
I'm the first one to get blamed in my household too.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not me. I promise you, I never, at this age, my kids are now 9 and 10. I don't do it without permission, yet I still get blamed when really they usually just lose it. And I'm like, "Did you check here?" And then they're like, "Oh, I found it." And then I'm like, and they're like, "I'm sorry, Mom." I'm like, "Thank you."
I know. Life is funny. It's like you throw away a kid's stuff one time and then they're just
know,
asking
right?
you for the whole rest of their lives. All right. So, Katie, do you want to say hi to everybody? Tell us a little bit about how you got into decluttering. Like, how did you make a whole podcast and profession and out of throwing your stuff away?
I feel very blessed and honored and privileged. Really, I love helping families declutter and simplify their homes because, I saw through my own journey how much it gave me in return. I feel like decluttering is one of those things that's an easy can to kick down the road in the sense that so many of us tend to procrastinate about it. But when we start making progress, not only does our home look tidier, and that's great. And honestly, I don't even care about that. Here's what I care about. We feel better. We feel happier. We feel more present. We can love being at home and feeling safe and supported and being with our people. And I know this is one big reason you love it too. You feel better in a less cluttered, less chaotic environment. And that's because our brains are, at the end of the day, are wired to crave order. And I think the reality is a lot of people go, "Well, I've got kids who make a mess and my partner doesn't care." And I've certainly hit those roadblocks too, but I just want to empower the listeners today, and we'll talk more about this in holistic decluttering, which is a philosophy I came up with along the way that really helps people get tangible results and kind of break that clutter cycle. Is that even if you have a partner who is cluttery, or your kids make a mess and don't seem to care, you can still on your own be the spearhead of this movement. And it often doesn't take that much when your family starts to feel those results too. We can talk about onboarding them too, but it's just such a beautiful thing. It impacts our relationships, our finances, our mental health. I mean, studies show that women who describe their homes as cluttered or messy have elevated levels of cortisol throughout the day. So it's like clutter puts our bodies in a low grade fight flight nervous system response. And not only can that correlate with anxiety and depression, but even physical health issues, blood pressure issues, blood sugar, acne, fatigue, so many different things. So I think a lot of times when we hear decluttering, we think about it from an aesthetics perspective because that's what we're sold. This perfect
Mm.
Pottery Barn ad is the end goal. But I call BS on that. And I'm like, culture has fed us this spoon fed version of the solution. Here's what you're going to get if you declutter. And first of all, 24/7 perfection and tidiness is not the end goal because it's not possible. So we need to shift the goalpost a little bit, in my humble opinion. The goal should be a home that's easy to tidy, not always tidy. And
Mm.
yeah, I'm super excited to dive into this with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, I just want to sell this. I'm going to sell this to you guys. So listen, the first client I ever had that I prescribed a dumpster to was because she was in my office, and this woman, oh, I love her so much. And every time she was in my office, she was literally sobbing because she was so overwhelmed. And she was in my office for money, not for decluttering, but she was like, the stuff is everywhere. She was working full time. Her husband was doing some of this stuff, but that he couldn't keep up with the kids either. And part of her habit was to thrift and to buy more organizational stuff.
Yes.
And so she was buying tons of cheap shit and then buying extra cheap shit to organize the cheap shit that she bought. And so when we got into her transactions, I was like, actually, your thrifting habit is not cheap. You could just be buying the stuff that you really want. You're spending the money anyways. Literally, she was sobbing I was like, give me a credit card. I'm ordering a dumpster for you. Let's just do this. So we ordered the dumpster. She got it delivered a couple days later. She got her husband and kids on board for declutter. They took like 15 cubic yards of stuff out of their house. And I think she told me 36 black bags, like either to donate or whatever else. And after that, her spending problem like basically just went away because she stopped wanting it. Like she stopped wanting stuff to come to her house. I wish I took like before and after pictures, because when she started, you could see the stress like in her body. Like her shoulders were always up. You know, she always looked tense. And after this and getting the money stuff together, she looked like literally lighter. Like she just looked healthier and more radiant. And I usually will tell people, I'm like, it's, never like a requirement for the money work. But I'm always like, if you have kids that are past certain seasons, I'm like, just get a dumpster. People be like, I don't have enough for a dumpster. And I'm like, you do.
The average American home has over 300,000 items in it, and it adds up in a dumpster really fast. My sister-in-law just bought a home as an investment property, and the woman was like 85. Her husband had passed, and like she never got rid of anything, as most people from her generation hadn't. And so guess who my sister-in-law enlisted to help clean it out? We filled up, and it was so sad. And there's so many takeaways from me, really just reaffirming things I already teach and preach and do. But like this, like everything, like her husband's army uniforms were like so ridden with mold and like dust mites and like everything, because she probably couldn't invest the time and energy into maintaining, because it hits a certain like breaking point. Like all the stuff, all these sentimental things that like we found baby clothes from like 80 years ago, and it's like she probably didn't remember she had them. They were all ruined and like had mice in them, and it was so sad. And I'm like, oh, I really wish like she could have at least taken these with her to her, assisted living, or like curated and maybe selected a few of the best. But it's kind of a shocking circumstance to do that on behalf of someone else. But I totally agree. There is huge amounts of mental liberation that come with simplifying. And sometimes that can be doing those marathon purges and like ordering a dumpster. But it's like what comes after that for maintenance, right? And that's where I think looking at decluttering from a holistic lens, like again, your client, I think, is an exception in the way that she didn't continue to keep those spending habits, where I was decluttering in one hand and buying with the other hand. And I didn't really want to admit to myself that I was part of the problem. I'd rather just blame my kids and husband because it's so much easier.
Shit. Yes.
And so I do think, again, speaking to the core of it, right? Our environment influences our habits, our identities, our beliefs, our choices, our actions. So your client, and I love this because it speaks to one paradigm of it. She simplified her physical environment and she immediately felt less stressed, which all of us would. And it also kind of cured the symptom of the shopping habit. And I think my guess is because her house felt so out of control that shopping is something we often do when we crave control. And so when that was solved, the shopping was solved too, because that was the true root of it, right?
But yeah, well, this isn't about the client, but this is about when I decluttered. So on my 35th birthday, I also ordered a dumpster. I was like, I can't live here. I don't know. I had like a little it's just like a little snapping point, but like with all this stuff. And so we cleared out the house. And what I found was that I feel like after I did that for the first time, I like exhaled all the way. And my mind got so much more quiet. Like when my house had all this stuff everywhere, the visual, I know noise is not visual, but the visual noise added, just like you said before, like this low grade stress. And now my house it's not like a perfect house, but it's, the cleaning lady comes twice a month and there's not a ton of stuff. So it's relatively like it feels peaceful. And it's just so interesting because sometimes I'll go visit people and no judgment to my friends and relatives. But when they're clutter, when I like see all of it, I can feel, it's weird. I can like feel the tension. Yes. I could feel my eyebrow furrow and I'm like, God, I just wasted this thing, my little crinkle, But now here it is again, just the think wrinkle, just like
they're back because of this clutter. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. So basically, if you get rid of your extra shit, you won't have wrinkles.
You won't need Botox anymore. No,
you won't need Botox. Right. But all right. So what's the difference? Katie? So before we were friends, before I knew you, I read Marie Kondo's book.
Yeah.
Is that the lady who's the spark joy
Spark
lady? You
joy.
have to you touch
Yes.
your things, and
Yeah.
if they spark joy,
Yes.
you keep them, and if they
Yeah.
don't spark joy, you toss them. I never did the things in the book.
I hear you.
I remember feeling inspired when I read it, and then I did 0 things about it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I was the one that read the book, got inspiration, tried it once, got so overwhelmed, kind of had PTSD from it. And then I was like, I guess I'm not cut out for decluttering. And here's the thing, I'm not here to knock other methods. I wholeheartedly do not believe there's a one size fits all method. And I understand the allure. We all want this one question, one strategy, one hack, that's going to solve our clutter forever, but that's not how it works. So the biggest thing is holistic decluttering I focus on the person. We focus on you, right? And it's like where to fold it, where to put it, all that stuff becomes like almost irrelevant when you just get to the heart and you're able to declutter in a much more, tangible, confident way. It's often a belief problem, an emotions problem, the meaning we're assigning stuff. No system is going to stick when you're constantly questioning like, well, what if I need this in the future? Or, well, this is sentimental, or like, what about those boxes you're too afraid to open? And again, speaking to other methods, treating clutter the same, this is something I really discovered and created in my own journey, is that there is not one type of clutter. There are 4 types of clutter. And
What
this
are
is
they?
huge and revolutionary for so many of us. So if you let's look at clutter like an onion. I just cut one the other night for dinner. So with an onion, we all know the outer layer kind of just crumbles away with very little effort. You don't even need to touch a knife. You just touch it, a little intention, right? And it just, right?
Yep.
And so that is what I call superficial clutter, right? On the outside of your clutter onion, so to speak. Superficial clutter is the stuff where there's no emotional tie, there's no what if, it's clutter. You just need to put a little intention into letting it go. So a lot of this can be in surface areas, it can be in cabinets, it can really be anywhere. But the idea behind superficial clutter, again, we want to start there because it's the easiest low hanging fruit. I'm not going to have you start with sentimental clutter. That's like telling you to go, whatever, lift a 50-pound dumbbell when you've never lifted a 5, right? We have to kind of work our way up there. So superficial clutter. Now, this is why we can clear our countertops, grab a trash bag, fill it up in 10 minutes or whatever, do a trash bag challenge and all these things. And we feel, like you said, instantly better. But then 2 days later, the clutter is back and we're like, well, what's the deal? I would say I've worked with thousands of families now. I've known you for 7 years. I've been doing this for 7 years. I would say with all the families I've worked through the years, superficial clutter is only about 15 to 20% of the total clutter in their homes. But most people stop there because the second that they hit the tougher clutter, which we'll talk about, they're not applying the right tools because they don't know what to do, right? And they're like, oh, I can't decide, right? And so the next layer in the clutter onion is scarcity clutter. I know you talk a lot about this. There's so many ties with finances, right? This is the just in case, but I spent good money on this. What if I need this in the future clutter? The next core inner piece of the onion is sentimental. I think a lot of us can really self-identify with sentimental clutter. This is stuff that's, the emotion and the nostalgia are there. And then another one, I think that's really never talked about. But again, after doing this for so long, so many women identify with this one. And it's like this light bulb moment is identity clutter. And these are items in your home that are tied to who you used to be, or who you want to be, or who you think you should be, or even who others think you should be. Not to get too heady, but like this is very real for a lot of us women, where it's like culture puts all these expectations on us or our family or ourselves. And we're like, well, I should be this person. And I'll give you a really quick example. It was born in 88, but I consider myself like a 90s baby. And Martha Stewart was like everywhere. Do you remember? Like
Martha Stewart.
Yeah, right? Like Martha Stewart, I mean, like Snoop Dogg, I'm here for it, right?
Me
and it's like
too.
she was this aspirational person on TV. My mom was kind of like her too. She always had her on. We had the cookbooks, and like she could whip up a souffle and serve 18 people and do the flour and the wreaths. And I was like, well, clearly, if I want to be the best wife and the best homemaker and the best friend to host all these lovely, glamorous parties, this is kind of who I need to be. This wasn't a conscious thought I thought. It's just something I absorbed growing up, right? So I bought the cookbook as an adult. I never cooked from it. I had 2 kids. I saw that cookbook every dang day. It wasn't a Martha Stewart, but it was like one of those, like, I will never be that woman, And
well, Martha is she's not just like a lady. She's like a brand.
Exactly.
She's not just like, I feel like if you met her as a real lady, she's probably just a real lady.
Oh well, yeah, but she's selling the dream of you can do
Yeah.
this too, right? And also she even says, I think I saw in her documentary, like I was selling perfection. And boy, like that runs deep in so many of us women feeling like we have to be perfect. That's its own episode, right? And so I was like, well, I want to be perfect and I want to like whip up a souffle, but like the reality was I was nursing, a kid on one hip and like, wiping up baby poop with my other hand. Like I was just not in that season. So I used to say when I went to go declutter my cookbooks. Well, it's just, I'll use it one day, but that day never came. So, just after taking a touch of self reflection, and actually, one of the methods I share in the book for identity clutter is a 3S framework. So, story, season, and self. So, what's the story I'm telling myself about this cookbook? That's literally all I asked myself. Just inside my head. And I was like, what story am I telling myself? And I was like, well, if I let go of this cookbook, that means I'm never going to be that person who is hosting 18 people, looks glamorous while doing it. Like this idealistic version of myself that like that dream
Mm.
dies if I donate this book. That's what I was telling myself,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's the meaning we give to
That's
things.
right. And then I was like, is it my season? It was not my season to be doing this. And I also, just with that first question, realized like I never wanted this story. This was something I inherited and I don't freaking want it. So this is when I say, like, sometimes when we declutter stuff, we feel better. It's great. Like the superficial clutter is just out, our stress levels improve. But like when it's something so liberating, like identity clutter you're releasing, it's not just you're letting go of the physical item. You're letting go of that mental clutter too. I'll never be that person. I stink at this. I'll never be enough. Whatever that is that you're thinking.
Yes, I'll tell you. So I worked at a Boys and Girls Club for like a decade before I got into finance, and I had those Boys and Girls Club hoodies.
Yes.
It took me forever to throw them away. And I remember being like, this doesn't make sense anymore. Like that I would have them. I would wear like cuz I was still wearing the hoodies. And by the time that like I was like, no, it's really time to throw these things away. They were like they were not fresh. They were not new. Like they did not look good. They were like tattered and like you know how like the hoodie pocket will sometimes rip. Like I always
Oh
have a
yeah.
ripped pocket hoodie and I remember throwing them away and it was
Mm,
like I was like, this isn't me anymore. Like this doesn't fit
mm.
anymore. This isn't like like I'm not wearing a ripped hoodie anymore.
It can go so much deeper than on paper. And I think that's the idea. And it's not that I expect my clients to walk around their house and be like, what kind of clutter is this? You're going to know when you know it's clutter on paper. If this is an item that isn't actively supporting me and my family and my life, that's my definition of clutter. You choose your own, right? That makes sense for you. And you're like, okay, yeah, it is that. But when you get the but and then you fill in the blank, it'll help you figure out what clutter type is this. And then again, what tool can be really helpful, tools really, which I cover a lot in the book. Each one of those 4 clutter types has its own chapter in the book because it's so nuanced and it can be so layered. But really just sometimes extracting that one thread is all we need. Like, I don't want people to think like, oh, I need to go through like years of talk therapy to like figure this out. It can be so much simpler if you just have the right tool for the job.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense because it's the sort of thing too where I feel like you can very easily get into a rabbit hole of just making a mess if you're not actually willing to throw the things away. You could just be like, let me open up this next box and see what's in there, and then maybe I could throw those things away.
Yeah, it's true. And I think, speaking to, there is value in marathon purges if you have the time and space, but 100% of the families I work with don't have the time or means to, use an entire weekend, or they just don't want to. And so that's where it comes to small shifts, really compounding over time, and those can both make you progress forward, even if you do have a lot of clutter, and on the backside, help you stay in maintenance mode so that you hop out of that clutter cycle and it stops being this kind of clutter whack-a-mole where you make progress, you tackle a pile, and meanwhile another one is forming.
Yeah, and I just want to mention here too, it's like so when I'm working with people on their money, I'm always looking at 3 primary reasons: time, money, and energy. Time, money, and energy. And what I'm really hearing is that when you take the time to get rid of the clutter, it really frees up energy. It like frees up your mental energy, it frees up your emotional energy. And honestly, That's a thing that's really, really critical, because it's like, if you
Yes.
don't ever get the chance to like rest at your house, like if you don't ever feel like rejuvenated, even in your own space, getting to the root of like any sort of emotional little knot, like whether it's spending or whether, like,
Yes.
listen, we all have a little, you know, a little closet full of like our own inner bullshit, but all of
Mm-hmm.
that sort of stuff that really like lends itself to like our happiness, that stuff costs energy to like get to. What I'm really hearing is like, when we declutter and we open up that space, we don't need to wash our face anymore, which I think is the most important thing. But then it frees up our mental emotional energy.
I mean, there are numerous studies, in parallels in finance and mental health in relationships. I actually just read this, really, I guess, surprised me, but I read a study recently that I think it was like 25% of couples who have divorced say that in their top three reasons for divorcing, it was like infidelity, maybe finances, which I know is a big one, and the third one was like disagreements over household chores. Like, this is like the load of stuff that it plays in our lives. I think a lot of us think, well, yes, I see it's annoying. I can see it stresses me out, but we almost get used to it in a way and we feel like it's kind of passive. But one helpful reframe for me and for my clients is that instead of looking at these objects as just stuff in your house, speaking to your energy analogy, look at them as magnets for your time, your attention, and your energy. So now, instead of a closet filled with clothes, it's just annoying and it makes it harder to get dressed every morning and it stresses you out, right? We can all like procrastinate. Who cares? Like, I'm used to it, or whatever our thought process is. But now, if I say every single item in your home is a magnet and it's stealing your time, attention, and energy, well, it's like, no wonder we're exhausted when we're at home. No wonder it feels like a full-time job. No wonder we feel like we can't show up as a person we want to in our marriage or our parenting. I know I felt like that. I was like a no mom. And like, anytime my kids asked me to play, I so desperately wanted to. But because all my energy was going to just like managing and moving around clutter and organizing clutter, which we are all sold that is the solution, when it's actually no, declutter first, organize second. I
Yeah.
didn't have the time and energy. I didn't have the energy to devote to my kids like I wanted to, until I started simplifying the magnets for my attention in my home. Like, you truly gain that back, and you don't have to do a marathon purge if you don't have time for it. I think a lot of us have experienced like setting a timer for 5 minutes, if that aligns, if that feels motivating, grabbing a trash bag, fill what you can. We're like, oh, I can breathe better. Just like you said, you saw a literal difference in your client and her face and how she held her shoulders. And that's after, a big one, a dumpster filled one. But you can also do it in a much smaller way where that fits into your life, if that works for you.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I will also just share that because I did the purge, like in my family, it's known as the purge. Like, there was a before the purge, there was an after the purge. Like, the
Okay.
purge split time for my children. So I might, if like I went back, I might have planned it out a little bit better and gone a little bit more gently. It ended up working out
It
fine.
worked out.
But I do want to mention, because when you were saying about like being a no mom, I just remember when I had all this stuff in my house, like I was full of rage and resentment. Like, I
Same.
remember like every time I was picking up the shit, I would be like in my own mind, like motherfucking everyone. Like, I'd be
Yep.
like, this is blah, 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 blah. And I remember just feeling just rage and resentment. And that was everywhere. It was getting into my motherhood. It was getting into my marriage. And then I was carrying that around all day because I was spending my time and energy cleaning up cheap toys.
It's so true. And I can attest to that. I was ragey, took it out on my husband. I had little patient with my kids. Again, I said no to everything. And when there's a gap between our expectation and our reality, that is where shame lives. And I think so many women live there. And then I can kind of think, to add salt to the wound, we're sold these like fictional surface level solutions. And don't get me wrong, bins can be helpful, labels can be helpful, organizing can be helpful, but I think, like, interestingly enough, it's all for the name of that end goal of perfection, and it's based and rooted in perfection. And it's like, who has time to be perfect? I don't have time. Like, I'm not spending my time rearranging, rainbow organizing my pantry because my kids just destroyed it. Like, I refuse. So, it's really about finding that harmony and balance that works for you, and just doing what you can in order to simplify so that you can regain that time and energy, and that shame and resentment will start to go away. Even
Mm.
if your partner isn't necessarily on board. What worked for Andrew for getting him on board? It wasn't like nagging. It wasn't slamming the cupboards, although I wish that worked. It wasn't me pointing at him and saying, you need to do this. I started with my own stuff first because I was like, why am I expecting my family and like my 2 and 1-year-old to like do this?
That
And my
1-year-old
husband,
needs
yeah,
to get his shit together. I'll
he
tell you
sure
that.
does. Why can't he follow a checklist, right? No. And I was like, okay, well, I'll start with my own stuff, you know? So once Andrew started noticing like the shared spaces, and also when he saw me tackle my closet, because I was a clothes girl, I still am a clothes girl, and you can still be a clothes girl. Even if you simplify, it doesn't mean you only have like one pair of shoes if that's what you don't want it to mean. He was like, oh, dang, Katie means business. Like I should pay attention. And even like simplifying the entryway. He would come home after work, as would I. He'd be less stressed, right? Our partners are impacted too. Our kids are impacted by our environment too. And he was like, wow, like Katie, like I'm so happy. Like, thank you for putting in the time and energy into this. I've noticed like I'm less stressed at home. Chores are taking way less time to do. I mean, within not that long, he was like on board. He was decluttering his own stuff, and it's never perfect. I'm not saying he was like became a minimalist or whatever and was like all this, but I think like it's so helpful to know that yes, I might have been the spearhead of that decluttering and simplifying movement in my household, but after a while just feeling the benefit, like my kids, of course, I've taught them these skills throughout the years and continue to have conversations and, strengthen that skill set in them, decluttering, picking up after themselves, noticing clutter. But like from a partner standpoint, it felt so relieving to me after years of feeling resentment toward him of just like, okay, like I had to remind myself we're on the same team here. We're on the same team. And he might see clutter differently than I do. Men often do. And, it's not always men and women, but often it is. Like women can look at a pile of clutter and why do we feel ragey? Well, we know the studies show that for specifically women, it spikes our cortisol. But why just women? Well, in my opinion, it's because culture has imbued that it falls on our shoulders, and it has and continues. But now women work and we're busier than ever, yet that expectation still is there. So going back to what you said, attaching the meaning, we don't just see a pile of stuff that might be annoying. That might be what my husband see. I see a pile of stuff and I can be like, my kids are slobs. My husband doesn't care. I'm in this on my own. I'm really pissed off. I see 47 decisions I need to make and nobody seems to care, And like, I just empathize because I've been there. But I also want to encourage listeners that even if you are in that space, you can begin to make change in really small ways that fit you, your lifestyle, and your schedule. And also, we all want the one hack that's like how to onboard your family, how to get your kids to like want to throw away all their toys. But for me, it's just been these ongoing, really honest conversation in really simple ways, starting when they were little, but you can start anytime, partner or kids, about like, I've noticed that when I'm home, my house, like I'm stressed out and I don't want to feel that anymore. So I want to make it a goal for us to declutter 5 things a day, or what would feel feasible for you, or how would you be willing to contribute? Maybe for you, it's your partner does the donation drop-offs and you fill the donation station. I mean, there's a million and one ways to do it. I think sometimes though, when we're stuck in that like funnel vision, rage, anger, like you talked about, we can't see our way out. Like it's hard to zoom out.
Also, I think before I had like the little like mental snap where I was like, there's too much stuff in here. I need to get rid of this. I don't think I registered it as clutter as being a problem. Like, I don't think for me, like one, I don't think I ever had a really quiet mental space to even know that it was available.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm like, I lived at I lived at my dad's house with my brothers. So our house was always, well, my single dad raised us with 3 kids on his own. So the house was always a mess. Then I went to college. And so we had 2 adult women, young women's shit in one room, the size of my office. And then I basically got married. And we had Miranda before we were even married. So, babies, I feel like are maximum clutter. And there's like some of them is like, you can't even really, I'm just like, there's shit everywhere. It's like the little bouncer, the thing. And it's like, you're going to put a whole human in there. So maybe it has to just be in the living room. But like, so by the time that we lived here, I just don't think I really registered it as clutter. It was just like one day I just had this like moment where I was like, there's stuff on top of my like furniture. Like I was like, there wasn't a clear surface. And for whatever reason that day, I just lost it. And I was like, I had to get a dumpster. And luckily for Mike was on board because kind of been like, maybe we should maybe we should get rid of some of this stuff. And I wasn't like hanging on to the stuff, but I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, what are you talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right though, like about like how much shame there is between the expectation and the real life. And, like when you think that your life should look like Martha Stewart's set, because that's not her house, that's her set. Like when we think that like it should look like that. I used to like Ina Garden. I actually
Oh
still
yeah.
like Ina Garden.
Oh yeah. What's not to like, right?
I know I would hang out with her. I feel like
I
she's a
would
good
too.
time. But I'm like, she is also perfect.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
perfect people with their perfect sets. And here we are trying to compare our house, and it's just like too much.
I know. It is. It is. And I think we just need to, again, it's not about like throwing our hands in the air and going like, well, forget it. Or like, I guess I don't care anymore. Or I'll wait till the kids are grown and 18 till like I can make progress. I think it's just going back to the sustainability piece of it, which is so important. And just, I want to reiterate, you don't have to bend over backwards and like fit decluttering should fit into your life, not the other way around. And I think we're just sold this all or nothing. Step 1, pull everything out. Step 2, ask this one question. Step 3, put back what sparks joy. And it's just like, what? This is going to take me 6 hours. I don't have that. So it's just, zooming out. And I think you're not the problem. If traditional decluttering advice has failed you, you're not the problem. The method was. And just, maybe getting curious, like, hey, what type of clutter that Katie talked about or Bree talked about is speaking to me? Or think about your house right now, or even like easy wins, like your car console or the trash that your kids, goldfish wrappers, like trash is an easy win and it certainly counts. You're decluttering, you're putting it into the trash. It counts, people, make it count. And these small wins compound over time. And I think we can all tend to get wrapped up, at least I can, because when what's like, here's like the ideal solution, which takes a whole weekend or 6 hours to do your pantry. A lot of us feel like, what's one thing a day gonna do? Or small steps. We're just a society where we want the fast hack. We want the results now. We want to lose a 10 pounds overnight. We don't want to put the work in. Again, just the small steps that we can take, no matter how busy we are, no matter how many kids we have or how messy our family is, they do really add up and compound. And that return on your investment can look like more money in your wallet, like it did for your client in your bank account. It can look like more peace, more freedom, speaking to the point where you're like, I didn't know, like I had all that mental noise in my head and that my baseline could actually be way lower if I didn't have all this physical noise causing the mental noise. So it can look like that. It can impact your mental health in really beautiful ways. There is a direct correlation between the amount of stuff in your house and anxiety and depression, which means on the flip side of that, and you always hear people say, well, causation is not whatever. I get it. No one says it's causing it, but there's a direct correlation. So if you are someone like me who really struggles with depression and anxiety, look at your home environment and go, what is one thing I can do today that will clear some of this out? And the side effect, I feel better, right? And we can regain control of our homes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think everybody deserves to have a space that you can like just
Yeah.
go to recharge and rejuvenate. And I'm like, if you don't have that, it's really hard to be doing the most. Right. I'm like, we're all doing a lot. You know what I mean? Like we got a lot on our plates. So if we don't ever have any time just to like actually feel a sense of relaxation, it's hard. I just want to ask one question. I feel like it's a little off topic. Well, it's a few topics ago, but do you want to give us like an idea about scarcity clutter? Because I'm like, for my audience, scarcity is probably one of the bigger kinds of obstacles.
Yeah. So scarcity clutter is things like, what if this is useful? So you might go, well, I don't use this, but I'm afraid to let it go. What if I need it in the future? This is useful. What if I need this one day? This costs money, right? That's the type of thing that would fall under like my scarcity clutter type. Again, it's nuanced. There are multiple tools for each clutter type, but I'll share one of my favorites if that's okay. I know we talked about 3S's earlier. This one's the 4S framework. It's also in the book. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's not a willpower issue. A lot of people are like, I just need more motivation. I just need more willpower. No, we need to like break that fear loop, right? Scarcity is fear of the unknown, fear of the future, fear of what if I'm not resourceful enough, fear of ... right? So the 4S framework is built on, not to nerd out, but I'll just say it. It's inspired by cognitive behavioral therapy technique. I really like, I'm not a therapist by trade, but I've been in therapy and I found a lot of results with that. So why not? So the first S in 4S is to spot it. So notice the thought that's keeping you stuck. It's usually some version of what if I need this later. The reason we start here is you can't shift what you haven't spotted. So naming it is really important. Like people are like, what do I do with this? Or like, why am I struggling with this? And I'm like, I need to get into your head right now because it's nuanced and layered. So let me into your head. You need to get into your own head and bring that thought up to the front, right? Then we soften it. Oftentimes when we have this thought, maybe we just like don't do anything. We stop because we just don't know. It's not about bulldozing the fear or that thought. It's not trying to sabotage you at the end of the day. It's trying to protect you, right? So instead of shaming yourself for feeling stuck, you can try, of course I feel this way. Of course I'm nervous to let go. Of course this feels scary to me. My mom and dad never let go of anything, so this feels new to me. And then we go into step 3, which would be to shift it, which is where you pull in your reframe. And it's not just like toxic positivity. It's really just more of a neutral and or positive statement you could use. Like, what is the truth here? Instead of what if I regret this, it could be like, hey, this item served its purpose. It was useful to me last year. If I need it again in the future, I am resourceful and I will figure it out. Like that's a much more neutral statement. And then that often empowers us to do the final one, which is step forward. One tiny action. Sometimes it's going to be, all right, I'm going to let this go. Maybe it's just, all right, I'm going to tackle one of these scarcity clutter items a day. One decision and the next. Spot it, soften it, shift it, step forward. It can just get you back into momentum.
All right. Yeah, this is real good. Oh, I can't even wait to read this book. All right. So tell us the details. When is your book coming out? Where do we buy it? Tell us all the things.
So you can buy it anywhere books are sold, as far as I know. I know a lot of my followers are buying on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever you want. And again, if traditional decluttering advice has let you down, I just want to reiterate, it is not your fault. All right. It is not your fault. So this book you are really going to love. It's called Making Home Your Happy Place, a real life guide to decluttering without the overwhelm. And I really wrote it for the person who's tried the bins, marathon purges, all the things, the one size fits all. And it's a deeper dive into everything we talked about, today with Bree on the show. We talk about onboarding families, simple systems for maintenance, moving forward. I mean, there's so much more. And I really designed it as a companion for you to come back to again and again and again. You can read it once and glean a lot from it. But again, with decluttering, because it's like building that muscle, it's just helpful to have a physical book, I will say. And if you read it and love it and want to let go of it, donate it. You have my permission. Move it to the next person. And it gets delivered the week of February 17th, 2026, but it is available for pre-order now. That is one of the best ways I've learned as I've written this first book. And this, Bree, that if you love my work or anything we talked about or any authors in your life, pre-orders really can help them so much. So you can pre-order it now and get all kinds of fun pre-order bonuses from me if you do that. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. All right. And then if somebody wants to give you like a friendly little internet stalking, where should they go?
Well, come hang out on Instagram. You won't see any picture perfect, idealistic stuff on there. Just tips, ideas, talking head videos, real life advice, stuff like that. And then my podcast, like you said, Maximize Minimalist. I do every Wednesday episodes. So we have a lot of fun, just real life behind the scenes. Like I've got 2 kids. I'm a mom. I have a busy life too. Just like you said, it's not like this idealistic version. I'm not trying to sell you something that I'm not. There's so much to learn from the topic of simplifying. And we talk about it from all angles of life, including, Bree's been on the show quite a few times to talk about simplifying finances. So yeah, we're very well-rounded, you and me.
Yeah, I find that decluttering is one of the biggest moves that we can make in the abundance building. Like it just gets stuff moving, right? Like money's a flow, abundance is a flow. And when we have too much, it gets like slowed down, it gets stagnant.
I think of like, I am a sucker for wellness stuff and I see all kinds of content the last few years on like your lymphatic system. Do you see this stuff too?
I have a tiny trampoline.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Yes. I'm going to get a rebounder probably for my Christmas gift. Okay.
Just so you know, it's real cardio. Like,
oh, I know.
1 minute, and I'm not exaggerating, 60 full seconds of really jumping as hard as you can is basically like, it's basically real hard. It's basically like running up a hill.
I know. I use my mom's. It makes you feel really out of shape. And you're like, dang, I could do this for hours when I was a kid. But right,
Yeah.
the idea is it helps. One of the benefits is it helps drain your lymph system so you can better detoxify. And so, again, just another fun little parallel. You're right. Like the clutter is like this physical representation of stagnation. And it's so cool to see all the ways it can impact people and get everything flowing, so to speak, whether that's how they spend their time and energy, whether that's their mental health, whether that's their finances. It's just so inspiring.
All right. Well, we're not advocating that you buy a tiny, tiny trampoline unless you're going to use it.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I have it. I have it right in my living room, and I do bounce on it. So it's not clutter, but if I wasn't bouncing on it, it would be.
It would be out.
Oh, good. All right. So people can find your podcast, Maximize Minimalist. They can find you to hang out on Instagram. Your book is available for pre-order. This episode will air one of the weeks in January. So it's already ready. And then the book will be delivered mid-February, you said?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right. Is there anything else I should ask you before we wrap up, dear friend?
I guess if you don't have a question, I will say, oh gosh, there are 1,000,001 ways we could end. I just hope that today's conversation gives your listeners hope. I certainly, and like it makes me cry thinking about it. Just like I felt like I was so hopeless for so many years. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? I'm a smart person. And it really just took years of blood, sweat, and tears to create this philosophy. And this is why I'm so passionate about having my podcast, being on Instagram, which you and I both have talked about. Like being on Instagram kind of stinks. It's not my favorite thing, being on social media, but I do it for my listeners and for everyone else, because I feel like this gap, I feel like I really feel this much needed massive gap in this market, where it's not all about aesthetics. Yeah, it's nice when your home looks tidier, but it's really about what's underneath that, and what decluttering has to offer you is just a really beautiful, life-changing thing.
Yes, beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for being part of my show, and I'm sure everybody's gonna benefit so much just from, like, I don't know, just the tools that you taught on how to get rid of some of the stuff that feels a little sticky. So I'm sure that we will hang out again because you're a dear friend of mine. And all right. So for everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I will talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.